ready?
Yeah, let's do this. Everybody, Bree Milani here with Sky Insurance Brokers, and welcome to the Greatness Podcast. Today we have our first ever real estate agent on this, so I'm so excited to introduce her. Her and I have worked together for a couple years now, and I've watched her become a mom of 3 now, which is amazing. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for reaching out. This is going to be so fun. I am Taylor Hirst. I am a realtor with Navigate Realty. And like Bree just said, we just welcomed our 3rd baby. He is 2 months old now.
He's so cute.
He's just fits right in. So it's been awesome. He's
so
already been to a couple showings, some inspections. He's had some office days. So that's kind of what you get with a working realtor mama.
But it never ends, right?
Right?
And
Yeah,
you've
exactly.
kind of done that with your kids. And you have 2 girls and a boy now. And you've kind of done that with your kids, just navigating this industry, being able to be a mom, working, and having your kids along for the ride.
Yeah, without knowing that that's what was going to be important to us when we got into the industry, it's become the most important thing to bring them with us and just kind of infuse them into the brand, you know?
Which is huge, because obviously you work with a lot of new buyers and younger families, and it's so relatable. They know that having kids is just part of life, right?
And it makes it easier to just keep up
with
trying to be me and just like stay in balance.
And be with your kids too,
Yes.
which is so important. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, how you got into the industry? We haven't heard from a real estate agent, and I know a lot of people, see real estate and they're like, ooh, like you can make so much money getting into real estate.
The glamour.
It's so glamorous. And you're like, yeah, no. So why don't you tell us a little bit how you got in the industry and just, your story of working with the people that you work with now.
Perfect. Yeah. So I actually was one of those. We purchased a house, my husband and I, the first one in 2013, going way back. And I loved it. I asked all the questions, and my realtor and my lender at the time said, you should do this. You ask questions that no one's asked. You're pretty into this. Fast forward, and 2015 had our baby, and I was unfulfilled at my desk job. It was a wonderful job. I had a salary. It was safe. I got to travel, but I just wasn't fully there. And I said, what is going on? What is this? I want to be with my baby. And when I'm at work, it just wasn't right. And so 2016, we actually got licensed. My daughter was a year old, and I thought, this is going to be great. I can just be home and bring my kids with me, and it's going to be so easy. And I love social media. No one's there yet. I'm going to totally just sneak in. Well, it turns out it's way more than just showing houses and putting your face on camera. But it worked really well for us. And so I had started in 2016, late in the year, and everybody prepares you as a realtor, save 6 months because you're never going to get a closing. You need to have 6 months worth of savings. So we kind of just, blew through the 401k, blew through taxes. We were freaked out. Hadn't closed anything, working crazy hours.
Were at a different
I was at a bigger
time.
brokerage,
Yes.
yep, and they had specific buyer training, or new agent training, excuse me. And it was during the holidays, though, and the mentors were busy, and I wasn't getting the training. And so I'm just kind of like, we're in a weird spot, and my husband had a seasonal job at the time, so he had been laid off. So we both were kind of looking at each other with a 1-year-old.
What do we do?
And so we found a different broker that had a totally different business model. And it works for men, and I'm sure women too. But for me, we did not love showing up at 80 acres with an unsecured buyer. Just, don't ask questions, just show up and show the property.
So dangerous.
Found myself, kind of competing with a male agent that was there waiting for a buyer. Push comes to shove, we actually found out we were waiting for the same buyer, but he had blown off the man and was waiting for me, this high energy lady on the other end of the phone. And I didn't think much of it at the time, but I'm thinking, this is not good. We're on 80 acres. And so we're walking the property. The other agent had actually left, and we're walking the property, and he picked up a rock. He said, wow, you guys have big rocks out here. And I'm thinking, this is it. Oh my gosh. And so I picked up a bigger rock. I could handle probably myself, but here's my big rock. I have nothing else, and my car is way out there, and I did not know he wanted to walk the 80 acres. So anyway, I went home. We talked, my husband and I, and said, this is not the business model or foundation that we want to build our success on. It can
Right.
work for other people, but for us, that's not right.
Yeah.
And so we start kind of thinking, what could we do? This guy gives us great leads. How could we walk away from this though?
Right.
And then we found ourselves with a positive pregnancy test.
Oh my
Number
gosh,
two
baby
is
number
on
two.
their way. And so we're thinking we've really got to make a switch, right? I write an offer for my sister on an agent's house I've never heard of. Her description was a little out there, and I'm thinking, well, that's kind of fun and personality, but whatever. Walk into the open house, introduce ourselves, and really try and secure the deal. I'm writing on paper the worst offer compared to the others that were on the table. Oh. But this lady calls and she says, "Who are you? How many deals have you done?"
I don't think I've heard this story.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
And so she says, "Who are you? I want to know who you are. Come to my office. You lost by a long shot, but you almost won because you would not stop calling me and trying to figure out how to win." And so anyway, I go in, I meet with her. I show up in leggings because I am so not ready to be that agent that has 3 brokers in her first 8 months. This is just, you don't want that reputation in your first year. And I show up and I'm not trying to impress. I think my hair was in a bun and I'm obviously emotional. She said something at one point and I started crying and I'm thinking,
well, I'm not getting this job.
hopefully this wasn't an interview that I didn't want anyway, but she definitely was thinking this gal's got to go. And whatever. Long story short, 2 months after the back and forth, she has said, "Go work an open house for me. I'm too busy." A cash buyer walks in and I'm thinking, who is this lady?
Wow.
I just got a cash buyer at an open house. She doesn't know who I am. This is more than I've ever got with the other 2 brokers I've had. And so after 2 months of the back and forth, date every broker in town, but I want you to end up here. I just don't have time to train anybody. You're very new. I ended up working with her, and it was the best decision that we could have fallen into, honestly.
And it's the one and only Kelly
And it's
Griggs.
the one and only Kelly Griggs, broker owner, Navigate Realty, just
She's
taking
wonderful.
off. She's, parting the seas in the real estate world with what she can do and provide and just everything
such
she
a
brings to the table.
Wonderful person.
Always.
Like, she's
She
so
had,
sweet.
She had no idea who I was. And she's like, here's an open house,
And you've been with her for how many years now?
Now it's been 3.5, basically. Wow. I think it's coming up on 3.5.
That's amazing.
And 2 full pregnancies now. And she's been there. She's been the mentor. She's seen it all.
And she's definitely your biggest cheerleader. I can
Biggest
tell.
cheerleader and my work mama.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go to her for anything that is work related, but also now personal.
Which is so awesome.
And that's what made the difference. That's what was missing with the other 2. And so
that's amazing.
Here
and
we
now
are.
You're like a top producer.
We're crazy to think about. Just celebrated 4 years technically licensed, so 3.5 of working. We've hit 15 million in sales the last 2 years. Wow. Pregnant, everything. So it's just been a whirlwind, but definitely supported. So that was
huge.
a long intro, but yes, that's how I landed into it.
It's good to hear because I think you're right about people who are newer in the industry. When they get in, they're just trying to find that home, and it's not abnormal for people to make moves and go to different places because it's hard when you're brand new. You're looking for that support. You're looking for somebody to help you. But let's be honest, you have agents who are so busy and they do so much business that maybe in their mind they thought, oh, I want to train somebody, but they don't have time to.
Yeah.
So
how do you ask a top producer to stop and
stop what
say,
you're doing
and this
to
is
help
how
me.
you do this? Yeah, this is how you start from square one. And so she said, I swim with sharks, jump in. You've got,
Wow.
What'd she say? Meat flavored panties on, but here we go. And you're going to learn the hard way and it's going to be worth every single second,
And
just
sure
ask
enough.
questions along the way and I will help you how I can. And here we are. And so that was the best for us to learn.
Oh yeah. And she's so wonderful. And I know she's like, I always see her on Facebook. Like she's your biggest cheerleader. So that's amazing. So now you live up in, you service most of El Dorado County. Yep. Is that fair to say? Mm-hmm. So Taylor and I think met each other probably when you were just starting at Navigate, if I remember
just started
correctly.
And I think I decided I want everybody to know who I am. And so let me breathe fire back into YPN too. I think is what a lot of our relationship had started with YPN.
Yeah, we did some Young Professional Network type of stuff in El Dorado County. We did that for a little while, and then obviously COVID happened, and that's not really a big thing going on right now. But
yeah, I did my 2 years. We passed it on, and then COVID hit, and so now we'll see if we can just breathe new fire back into next year. So
yeah, and I think the reason I really wanted to bring you on this podcast and to share with people the hot ticket button, the hot button right now is definitely high fire, the high fire insurance. Obviously that's a world I live in daily, but with that, you do a lot of that business. We were just talking before this, and pretty much 99% of your business is up in that foothill areas. And so, we had Ashley Hughey on earlier, and she's wonderful. And she's my favorite. I know you guys work together a lot.
She's my preferred lender.
Yes, she's amazing.
I'll claim her all day long.
I know, and we thought we should have had you guys on together, but that was an afterthought. That'll have to be another day. But, shed some light on what you're doing in that market because, what Ashley and I touched on was in the Placer County area. we're dealing with 30, 40 offers on every single house. And I know it's not quite that extreme up where you're at, but you deal with multiple offers and you're dealing with issues with insurance. And so what are some things that, giving people advice on for those buyers up there that maybe they're just feeling worn out, like, man, I've put in 5 offers in these houses. Every insurance quote is $5,000.
Right.
What is like things that you're doing to help your client not have to face that?
So I personally start with setting the right expectation. I am not going to be an agent that's going to tell my clients what they want to hear,
Right.
but rather what they need to know. And then they can make the decisions, an informed decision on, are we going to write? Are we going to, continue to buy in this market? Where do we want to be? And so I've really put the work in to educate myself to say, okay, how now can I educate my buyers in the best way? And I have a little cheat sheet now that I give to them. And I basically say on every single offer, you must have these 3 things. And to then make it stronger, you could consider, these 6 things. And they can pick and choose. And then to just be the absolute best, make sure that we check all of the boxes. Insurance, though, is a category that falls into you must have this to write an offer. And what I mean by that is I am making my buyers shop their insurance and get quotes prior to even sometimes looking at the house if we have the time, which,
Right.
Hit or miss there. But prior to submitting the offer, because what I want to do is communicate to the list agent, I work this area. I'm local. I know that there's an issue. I've educated my buyers, and look, we've taken it a step further. They have a quote in hand that is acceptable to them. So you can be insured. My buyers are not going to walk in 2 or 3 weeks because of something that we could have found out on day 1.
Right.
And so I submit it with our offer package.
Which is awesome because I was talking to Ashley also, and what we run into a lot is people are, 30 days into escrow and they're scrambling trying to get a quote that's going to suit their financial needs. And unfortunately, with what we deal with in this industry right now, it's just some people, it's not possible. They could shop us and 30 other companies and we're all going to have a relatively same quote
Right.
or, have a little bit of a difference, but
There's not going to be a big change.
Right. You're not going to find that. They're like, there has to be a company out there that's going to insure me. And we're like, but there's probably not. It's very slim.
In most cases, it's the California Fair Plan, too,
Right.
is what we're finding
Yep.
with that wraparound, which I'm sure you've talked about, so I
Yeah.
don't need to dive in. But I educate them on that as well. These are the things that you need to compare. I made the mistake as a buyer myself. I looked at the California Fair Plan, and it was cheaper than the regular admitted insurance quote that you gave me.
Yeah.
And I passed, and I said, well, I'm going with Fair Plan because it's cheaper.
It's cheaper, yeah.
Every time we got the, you're going to get evacuated or there's a fire around the corner from your home, I shook in my boots thinking, I now know I don't have sufficient coverage for my house.
Right.
And it's here. It's in my backyard,
Yeah. And that's something, we obviously try to educate people on because sometimes with those houses, we can get quotes through other carriers, but they are more expensive. And people look at that and they say, well, I can't afford that, so I want California Fair Plan. And we understand it's, every penny counts, but you're right. It's all relative. And, when you really need to use your insurance is when you're like, oh my gosh,
I wish I would have,
done
taken
something
the deeper dive and actually compared. What does this actually mean? And what does this mean? How far does my dollar go?
Right.
On insurance.
And it's one of those things that it's like, you think it's no big deal until you have to use it. And I think, we've seen all these fires happen, and I think it scares people because we've seen fires just take out towns. And so obviously you want to be protected correctly. So I'm happy you are.
Now I am.
Now you're
We
good.
have fixed it since that little example.
Yeah, now you're good. So I also want to talk about, we touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but you have your 3 kids, you are working, what are some things like that you do that helps you? I know you have a husband who gets to be home with your kiddos,
Yep.
which is so awesome. I know in this industry, it's so busy. Everybody's, running around like a chicken with their head cut off. So for you, what are some things that you do that helps you be able to be available to your children, but still be able to be super available to work as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So that also comes back down to expectations. I have learned the hard way what my capacity is. And so I'm very clear with not chasing the dollar sign. If I know that I'm not going to be able to give 5-star service, I have to cut it off and refer it out. And so what I do is I tell my clients, say, look, there's a chance we have a mini farm going on. So there's a chance
I've seen.
you call me and I'm out in the middle of the donkey pasture and you hear a donkey bray or a chicken, whatever in the background. But if you need me, I'm ready to go. You just have to take the regular kind of out of office Taylor in order to get my 5-star service. I might not look the part. I might have boots on, whatever. But I can show up. I can show you the house. I can write a kick booty offer. I can make sure that we are seen and we're presented in a perfect package, as long as you don't expect it to always be professional. Because I can't keep up if I have to be professional.
Well, and I think it's fair to say with the buyers that you're dealing with in those areas, they might just be
and they love it.
Relate to that. They're like, this is the lifestyle we're looking for.
Exactly, and that's what we've really shifted. I am not going to please everybody. I'm not going to be the agent for everybody.
Right.
But the agent that I am is for every single one of my buyers right now, which is fun.
Yeah.
They all are like, we want a farm. How do you start? Or would this work if we bought this property that you're showing us? Can we have, chickens one day? And so I get to speak to what I know. I'm in my confidence outfit, all the time. And so as long as I set that expectation is I might not look the part. You might catch me at home, but guess what? My husband is a full-time stay-at-home dad.
Amazing.
And so that means that I get to fly whenever. And that was an intentional decision we made, a business decision 3 years ago now. Yeah. I mean, I think we were with Navigate and Kelly only 3 months. And we said, look what you could do if I came home. He was miserable at his job, great job, but he was driving to Stockton every day. And then we weren't seeing him. I was toting around a 1-year-old to try and do real estate also. And so we intentionally said, bring you home and I can fly. And so we've been able to do that. But I did learn early on that I have to be confident in it and not hide it. And so I rebranded.
You did. And I actually wanted to talk about some of that. So for me, I do a lot on social media and you do far more than I do. And it's really impressive because you took who you are as a person and made it into your brand, really, which I think people strive their whole career to do that and never achieve it. So how'd you come up with it? Obviously, if you want to say your Instagram handle.
I didn't want to have to plug myself. So I am the millennial realtor mama on my social media handles. And I came into that because I found myself trying to be Kelly. I would watch Kelly Griggs and say, okay, I want to be Kelly. And then I'd look and I say, well, I'm a second-rate Kelly. Kelly Griggs is always going to beat me at being Kelly Griggs.
Right.
I'm always going to be Taylor Hirst. I will beat everybody at being me. And so if I just own it, then I can thrive, you know? And, it took a few clients calling the broker or whomever saying, she talks too fast, or every time I call her, she's got a kid, or she shows up and her kid's with her, or, whatever. And very rarely did I bring my kids at that time, but it hurt every time. And the best piece of advice everyone gave me was don't take anything personally. And in those instances, I'm like, well, that's a direct personal attack. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
She talks too fast?
That's,
okay.
Hi, so do I.
You don't know how great my offers are. I have, put everything into learning how to win, but we don't get that far. And so as soon as I switched, I said, you know what? I am millennial. I am a realtor and I'm a mama. Yeah. And I'm going to call those types of buyers and sellers into my life because we are cut from the same cloth.
Right.
If I can work with more people, like attracts like. Your vibe attracts your tribe. All of these little things, they are so true.
Oh, 100%.
And the satisfaction that came with our work, it just allowed me to be better at what I did, more confident in what I did, and now just easier. I don't have to hide anything, and I can always be me and know I didn't mess up.
Right. And I think that's so important because a lot of people they try to be every different personality to fit people. And I think that is part of our job. We have to match our clients, right?
Totally.
We can't, it's for me, I'm like you, I'm high energy, I'm loud, I'm, I have kids, that's me, but I know I have to sometimes turn that off because I have clients who can't relate to that.
Right. And they can't get past that.
Yeah. And it is hard. You do feel like, gosh, I'm kind of hiding who I am. But, at some point, like what you did, you're like, you know what? Embrace it. This is who I am. This is what I'm good at. And this is the people I want to serve. So,
and the best part has been, I don't have a lot of rejection that I have to face anymore.
Oh,
if they show up and they see my stories behind the scenes or they see my social media content and it doesn't fit with what they're looking for, I actually never know.
Yeah.
Which is,
true.
in turn made me more confident because every time I meet someone, I'm for the most part converting them, because they already know I might talk fast or they already see what they're going to get and they like it.
And on social media, I know you make it a point to, you talk about your kids, your husband, your chickens, and all the animals.
The dream, the donkeys.
and your little dogs of the running around. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. Like it's, because, I live in the city. So I'm like, that is such a cool lifestyle. It is. And it's cool to see that. But then you also incorporate, wow, my buyer, this is what just happened. I know I saw you the other day post something about, things that kind of stink sometime in this industry. And it's real. And people see that and relate to it. Because I think the number one thing is well, the number one thing on social media is people want to be perfect. And it's like, no one's perfect. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And if you're acting like you're perfect, it's, probably the opposite. So I love your social media that you really try to show people, here's every aspect of real estate, and then being a mom and a wife and having these crazy dreams of like having these houses on multiple acres. It's admirable. It's amazing. So that's what Ashley and I were talking about. We're like, how does Taylor do it all? Like, seriously, how does she do it all?
Because I balance what gets dropped, If the sink might be full, but I'm killing it and I've got offers accepted, but I've got dirty dishes, or
who cares?
I'm not the one feeding the animals. He's got to pick up the slack there because, we trade off what we drop. It's not, and I wish that there were more people that led with that because getting into the industry, again, it's just so glamorous. You show houses and you get some big check and there's so much more and you lose so much more. There's a lot more struggle getting to the wins.
Right.
And so it would have been nice to kind of have a real expectation getting into it so there wasn't so much defeat in the first few months or year even.
Yeah.
It's just that's what it is and we expected it and here we go.
And I think a lot of people see that and they face that, and it's hard because like you said, if you don't have that money saved or you don't, you're going into it and you're like, well, it's sink or swim.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Unfortunately, it kind of is, you really got to push through, and clearly you've been successful at it. I mean, at this point, I think anytime I say your Instagram handle, people are like, oh yeah, I know Taylor.
Good.
Yeah.
Because it's
awesome.
hard. There's no name there. And it's
yeah,
just like,
but no, you've done such a good job. And I think like I said, a lot of people strive for that their whole career and never make it to that. Well, so you did amazing. So I want to talk a little bit about the market and like where you see, obviously, you're not a loan officer, so we don't need to talk about rates and all that good stuff. Yeah. Hey Taylor, what's the rate today? But where do you see our market? I know your area is a little different than, let's say, Placer County or Sacramento County, but they're all kind of relative. Like, we all kind of jive in the same
trends.
El Dorado County and whatnot. So what do you see happening? Because like we said, right now the buyers are having a tough time. It's definitely a seller's market. What do you think is going to happen? Or I know you don't have a magic 8-ball, but what are you hoping that's going to happen? Yeah.
No, so it's really tough to be a buyer's agent right now in this market.
And you do both, right?
I do both. Yep. So I service sellers and buyers, and sellers right now. Every realtor is going to hate me saying this, but a monkey could sell a house right now. Right. But the realtors, we take it to the next level to negotiate to get you what you're seeing in the media, $40,000 above ask. That's a negotiating skill that we actually bring to the table, but in the buyers, the conversations we have to have are, if you're approved for $500,000, we're going to shop around $450,000 so that you even have leverage to compete to get the house that you want. You don't get to buy the $500,000 listed price because you're already out of the game, and so we have to educate on that. We have to educate how long you're going to be here. If you really only see yourself for 2 or 3 years, maybe you rent. Everybody wants the deal right now, and there's no deal to be had. The deal is if you hire us, we educate you going in, and we get your offer to the top of the pile. Yeah. But not because you're offering ask price or under. You have to be very short on our timelines, and we have to be clear about that. We have inspectors we're their VIPs, and so we're able to tell on an offer, we can get you in and have a 7-day inspection because our inspector's going to fit us in 3 or 4 days.
That's awesome.
Normally it was 2 weeks was the standard.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so 2 weeks is a standard on the offers to even just have an inspection period. Well, hey, buyers, guess what? We are jumping into this, and in 3 days we're going to have an inspection. If you even want one. A lot of buyers are having to waive their inspections, which is wild, and we have to talk about why that's smart and why it might not be, know?
So they go in and they say, we'll buy the house as is.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens if like something catastrophic comes up? Like, what do they do?
What we do is we talk about it, and we have really open communication with the other agent on the other side and also the sellers to say, hey, look, this wasn't disclosed to us. We could not have known by looking at it and doing our due diligence at the front, right? We did the inspection. We knew it was for knowledge purposes only, but this is bigger than what we could have expected. And sometimes if they have 4 or 5 offers waiting in line, knocking every day with the agent calling, saying, we're still interested, they could boot us. They could say, fine, don't buy it.
And now you're not stuck in that, like as a buyer.
Nope. We protect our buyer. We never actually waive the inspection. We just say they are for knowledge purposes. We do intend to go as is if that's the choice that they make. But we have just very clear conversations. What are the risks? Let's continue to move forward, and that's what this looks like. Or we can back out because we have earnest money. We are still acting in good faith. We never advise them to say that they're not going to, and all of the things that can get convoluted in an escrow. But we have the best attorneys and legal behind us that our advice always comes from the legal aspect, and protecting the buyer at the root of everything.
Especially right now when, they're going in kind of blind and saying, oh, well, I want this house. I'll do everything I have to get it. But you don't want to tell your client, do it at all costs.
I don't want the phone call in a year saying, hey, well, we educated, pretty clearly. And we have to be very careful to write it all down right now too, just because what we are seeing is a ton of buyers coming to the table. Our rural properties, the rates that are so great right now are calling in a lot of those first-time buyers. So they're super uneducated. They've never done this. They're really leaning on us in a market that is just not normal. This is not regular. And so there's a lot more hand-holding and educating along the way. But what we do is we say, hey, this is how we can protect you. Let's go as far as we can, but we're inundated with buyers. So we're still getting 5 to 10 offers on our properties. Wow.
Even out in the foothill area.
When we list, what we do is we get our inspections up front so that we do have the ability to better protect our sellers to say the buyer you picked will go the distance because, look, we gave them their inspections. So there's little reason for them to, in 7 days find out something bigger and then back off.
Right.
Because once you go back on the market, you still don't know. A lot of those other buyers are ready. They could have moved on.
Right.
You can't promise your seller that everyone's still going to be lined up and it's going to be a feeding frenzy still, Right. And so for the buyer and seller kind of deal, we want to make sure, and I as an agent want to communicate to the list agent, my buyer will go the distance. We may not be the top price right now, but guess what? I have provided my insurance. They're not going to walk away for that. We have thoroughly gone through the inspections that you gave us. So unless something is massive that both parties missed, we're going to close based on what we know about the house and what you've disclosed. I don't want to have the buyer walk.
Right. Of course not.
But it's so, there's a lot of buyers getting caught up in the urgency. Let's win, win, win. It's so competitive. We want that to still be a happy thing that they won versus sitting there in 2 weeks saying, what have we done? We just bought a house in this market.
And we're not.
We know nothing. We're not confident. And so our goal is to make sure they are confident if we're writing, they know what's coming. And then it restores the relationship with the list agent.
Yeah.
Because
make sure
if you're hiring me, that's one of my pitches. I have great rapport with all the agents in town.
Yeah.
That will help us just in terms of communicating.
Because it's fair to say in your area that there are a good handful of agents that kind of do a lot of the business.
They control the listings because they have the most of them.
Yeah. So it's super important that you have that relationship with them because obviously it's how you can win for your buyers. And win deals.
So an agent will never say you'll win because I know you, but it helps if everybody is exactly the same on paper, but that we've done a deal and it was successful and they saw how we communicate and my team and the flow. That might help them say, I do trust that this will go the whole distance. And that's what's most important right now.
Yeah.
Sellers just want to close.
Yeah, which makes sense. Well, we're going to take a break really quick, but we'll come right back. We'll just take a really quick break and we'll get right back to it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hello, we are back again here with Miss Taylor Hirst, and we are going to talk a little bit about now, the importance of, we were talking about, knowing the agents that you work with, a lot of listing agents. But one of the things we haven't touched on is having a local team that you work with, whether it be a local insurance agent, whether it be a local mortgage company, an inspector. The importance of that, just because I know you've dealt with some people who aren't local, and not that it's bad. It's just, you don't have to be local, but you need to know what's going on in that area.
Right.
So why is that important? Like for you, your buyers or your sellers at that point. Yeah.
So what I do is we make sure that every time that we present a package, whether it be an offer package to a list agent or a listing presentation to the actual seller that is saying, hey, how could you give me value? Why would I hire you? We really, really pitch to stay local. The reason being is we have septic tanks. We have wells. I was going to ask
about that. Yes.
Yep. We've got a lot more that kind of goes deeper level under the surface, quite literally.
Things you don't see in Roseville.
Yeah, you would
Sacramento.
Exactly. And so there are different inspections that, a seller should provide to a buyer to avoid big hassle later, or that a buyer needs to know, hey, this is something that you want to inspect. Your septic tank might be 20 years old. The leach lines could be 25 at the end of their life. And how are you going to know that? Because that's a really big expense. Great, we won the offer, But now you have a significant cost that you're jumping into because you didn't want to inspect.
And do you deal with a lot of buyers that aren't familiar with that? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have a big influx of people. So we have the big wave coming from the Bay Area that everyone knows about right now, especially with COVID, being able to work from home. And so we have the Bay Area buyers kind of coming more to Folsom, Sacramento County, basically. But those folks have to go somewhere. And a lot of them are seeking out the rural lifestyle.
Right.
So, they want a Victory Garden or whatever, and they want to come to El Dorado County. Well, we are rural. And, I carry my cowboy boots in the back of my car and a shovel, Just ran into a top producer yesterday, and same thing. She has her same kind of realtor kit in her trunk.
That's
and
awesome.
They're all very similar because of where we are. I've had to dig up septic lids before because they just didn't know.
See, we're trying to tell you this job is not glamorous.
No, it's not. If I could have a phone recording me all the time. It's important to have your local people because like I said, I touched on having my inspectors. We are their VIPs. We do work a lot of the business and we send them a lot of business. So therefore we get their first appointment, their next appointment, or they'll make room for us. And that's important just because you have the leverage to say, hey, look, this person is qualified. They carry the right insurance that you want your inspector to carry, when you're hiring them.
Business insurance,
and they know exactly what they're looking for. They look for the problems. They know these roots are not good, that it's past the life of whatever. And so you really just want to make sure that we have the right people in our pocket. And it goes even deeper. I work with the local insurance agents. Adam works. Who that is. Adam works lives in Cameron Park, right?
He's literally right down the street.
He's as local as it gets when he's talking about insurance. Our local lenders, they are well prepped. When a buyer meet with a lender, they give you an expectation on what your monthly payment is going to be. Your monthly payment is made up of so many different things, but they have to account for a monthly cost to go towards their homeowner's insurance, which includes the fire insurance. And if they're estimating $50, $60 a month, like maybe Sacramento County can get away with, they're so off. And so we get an offer accepted. We're so excited. Great. We go back to the lender and they didn't account for it because they're not local. They plug the numbers in and say, oh, I was off. You have to come up another $200. It's actually $250.
You're not even qualified to buy that house.
You no longer can get the loan for that house at that price that you just got the offer accepted for. So that's kind of the layer of protection that submitting an offer with insurance and the pre-approval reflecting that same number. That's how it takes us that next step further. It's just a peace of mind for the list agent and the seller when they review in the multiple offer scenario, but also the lenders, they have a heart to heart. This is how much you have to bring to closing. Well, before really the Butte County fire in Paradise, before that, we had lenders that weren't even telling their buyers, you have to pay the entire year up front for your insurance. It was maybe $700 to $1,000, so not a big deal.
Right.
Now it could be $2,500, $5,000.
Right. That's a lot of money.
That's cash to close. That's different from your down payment. You need to have that when we close. And if you don't know, now what? Now we have to back out for something that should have been explained. And so by having the local lenders and our lender partners kind of know what I expect, it's made it that much easier to say, my package is flawless here. If I could give you a buyer with a bow, here they are.
Yeah, this is
as much as I could have prevented or expected.
And you hear a lot of people, buyers especially, come into the market or say they come to you, they're like, I already have my lender I work with. And you're like, that's great. And I'm sure they're amazing, but do they understand our landscape up here, how different it is? And it's so different. And even though, what did we say, it took 38 minutes to get to Sacramento from where you live, it's a 30-minute difference in drive, but it's all the difference it's a whole different world. Industry. It really is a whole different world. Even for me, and I live in Roseville, it's totally different world when I go up there. It's just, it is what it is. And if you're not privy to it and you don't know that, make it completely kill a deal. So I think that's important to touch on because some people might think, well, I have my brother does loans in Southern California. I want him to help me. Well, that's amazing that he does that. And I'm sure he'll give you a great deal, but does he understand what we go through up this way?
Yes. And so we take it the kind of deeper level on that too. We will call them, we will always encourage them to use our local lenders. Some sellers list agents are saying, get approved with my local lender just to know that they've checked everything that we need them to check. We can't force them to use the local lender.
Right, but at least
a lot of the time they provide the value and the buyers actually say, okay, well, that's stuff that we hadn't touched on. I actually feel more comfortable with you. But worst case, if they do want to use the family friend or the Bay Area
online.
or the online lenders, we have the phone call and say, did you ask this? Or now at this point in the process, you need to plug this in and this in and this in and have the intentional conversation. Because if we are going to work with you, these are the things that we need to have kind of just making sure that it's in the package.
Right.
Because I don't want to present a perfect buyer and then has something go sideways because of something that I could easily have had control of at the beginning.
And I'm going to guess that's happened before.
It has. And every single escrow brings a new lesson.
Yeah.
And every agent will say that. You could have been at 25 years or had 25 years of experience in 5 years, and you're still going to learn something, you know, every single time.
And I would say by now you're probably a veteran in the industry. I mean, 4 years, and you do a lot of transactions, which I think, like you said, each transaction you learn something new. And it's just like insurance. It's the same thing. We learn something new every time we do a transaction, depending on where the house is at. What's something, if you could go back, or if, we have newer agents listening, what's something you would go back and tell yourself in the beginning of your career that you wish you would have known?
I think there's two parts to that. Do the work. Put the work in. No one is going to want to hold your hand. Very rare if you find someone that can or wants to do that. But there are so many resources. There's YouTube. There are podcasts. There is so much out there. There is enough room for all of us at the top. Put the work in on your own and say, I'm going to make it because of everything. I'm going to be the smartest agent that these people are interviewing. You have the full control of that.
Educate yourself.
Yeah, I'm 4 years in, and I have many more years experience just based on the volume, but also the education that I've done, right? And so I would say start there, but also find a mentor.
Yeah.
Yes, the office lessons are great, when you have a broker that offers them, but find a mentor that wants you to succeed as much as they do. You can't fail at that point, you know, and just jump right in. You're not going to know. Perfect is the enemy of good, right? And I think is that what it is? Is done, whatever it is basically done is better than perfect.
Right.
Just jump in. We're all going to learn. Bree and I both just said that.
Yeah.
Just be ready to learn, be ready to fail, and just be super transparent. So I think that's
really
that's
good
a lot
advice.
of it.
I had a mentor as well, and it's it's one of those things that I don't think I would be where I'm at now. And it's like you're learning from somebody who's better than you, and if once you accept that you're not the best, like. Yeah, well, it is what it is, but I want to be there one day.
Yeah.
I want to get to that point.
We drive so much. We're rural. The houses are not close together. They're not subdivisions. I have a mobile university.
Yeah.
I have had so many people. How did you learn how to do that? I said, I started with a podcast, and then they pitched to this person, and then I went down the rabbit hole of following that person and this and that. Now I'm in these groups, and there's so much value that's just freely shared.
Right.
There
don't
are
take
apps.
advantage of that.
There's Clubhouse, pop into Clubhouse, just listen to these top producers. You can listen to Grant Cardone right now, Gary Vee.
Yeah.
On these for free.
For free, yeah.
For free.
These
You
are
don't
like
even have to
master
have
people,
money.
yeah.
Yep. You just go in and you listen, and you take the nuggets that you can, successfully give the attention to. Not all of it, just bite-sized pieces. And if you're just a little bit better every day, or just try these one little tweaks, it's going to just do so much more for you and take you that much further.
And clearly you've done that. I mean,
I'm a learn-it-all. I'm a self-proclaimed learn-it-all.
Which is amazing. And in 4 years, you've done a lot of what most people can't do. And it's very impressive.
We had a fun little milestone this year. We were same week, I think, as the anniversary of being licensed. So 4 years of being licensed. And we had over 100 transactions closed, 100 sites closed. And that was a big deal because
I saw on Instagram.
The average is 4 or 5 a year for top producing agents because there's so many agents.
Right.
It's everybody can do business.
Right.
But
it takes a special person though to do that.
It was cool. It was cool to see that. And then, to look back and say, you know what, I did it, and I was pregnant twice, and not to toot our own horn, but this business is hard. And so it was fun to say, wow, we did it. And we did it our way, which was cool.
Your own horn, because
cool.
And then I can only relate to the being a mom part. That's hard enough as well. And I only have 2. So I can imagine.
I will say, nothing for you and your husband,
no.
but the transition from 2 to 3 has been so much easier than the transition from 1 to 2.
I've actually heard that, but don't get any ideas.
We're just better at our job now.
We're better at it.
We buy the better products because we just are not stubborn enough to say we can do it on our own.
We've got it figured out by 2. Well, if people want to get a hold of you, I know you said your Instagram, but what's the best way to get a hold of you? Is it Instagram or your email, phone number?
I would say the phone. Phone is still the best. I've got it every day. I do all of my business. So 530-409-1243. Perfect. Text or email. Email would be fine, but text or calling on that phone, and you're going to catch me. It's in my hand.
I think anytime I try to get a hold of you, I just shoot you a text. It's pretty easy.
And it's the quietest. I do have kids. There is chaos, and it's super simple. I don't have my phone in my lap now, but even if I'm in an appointment or at a showing, I can fire a text back, especially being so busy with clients right now.
Yeah.
It might be 2 hours before you hear from us if you need to talk on the phone.
Right.
And so we can answer most everything by text. Yeah.
That's
super
awesome.
simple.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank you for having
driving
me.
all the way down here.
Getting lost. I felt
Getting
like
lost.
such a rural kid.
Well, thank you. You are amazing. And I'm happy to be in business with you. You guys are, your whole team, they're just wonderful people. So thanks for coming down the way down this road in Sacramento. We appreciate it. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thank you.